They did it. The Texans are 0-3. Our instant reaction on how things went down today in Jacksonville for the Texans falling to 0-3 for the third consecutive week. The Texans found themselves in a game they were never down by more than one score. And yet, they're the team that came up short for the second time in 3 games. They were driving down the field for the go-ahead touchdown inside the 20-yard line late in the game and turned it over. Today, it was Nico Collins looking for extra yards after a completion. Ball got knocked away from him. They were able to get back in the game because they let the Jacksonville Jaguars score. Brian Thomas Jr. finally got in the open, finally got a big, huge reception, biggest one of the season for them. Texans probably should have let him score on that play, but they knew it, so they let Travis Etienne score on the next play. So with just under 1:50 to go, the Texans were down 17-10, and as they had done on each of their final 3 drives, they kind of drove the ball down the field without too much issue. They had the 50-yard pass play following the Petrie interception to get their first touchdown, and then they drove down the field in advance of the Collins turnover. Then they drove down the field again into the final turnover. They had gotten good pass protection on the last 3 drives of the game. There was time for CJ to throw. The interception earlier in the game that he threw when he just didn't put enough air underneath it to Christian Kirk, also on the Jaguars side of the field, that was well protected. Last play of the game, Ursery trying to block Josh Hines-Allen yet again. He pushed him pretty far out wide, a tiny step up in the pocket or a tiny step to the left in the pocket where there wasn't anybody. And mind you, this was a 3rd and 1 play. The Texans could have easily had CJ Stroud scramble, get out of bounds, and run a couple more plays. But just a slight movement from CJ, and he probably avoids getting the ball hit on its way out as Hines-Allen swiped at it, either hit the ball or hit his arm, and it fluttered on its way towards the end zone, was picked off, and that was all she wrote. They spent much of this week, the Texans did, telling us how close they were. They are clearly close. They've had 3 one-score losses. Close to outscoring their opponent. Close to maybe winning a game. They're not close to looking like a good football team. Their defense is doing the types of things 3 consecutive weeks that often would lead to victories. They haven't won the turnover battle in any of the games, but the big turnover they got today obviously got the team going, got the offense going. Jalen Petrie picks off Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence did not have a good day. This had been a good running football team. Travis Etienne, well over 200 yards in the first 2 weeks. And they did a good job in that regard. They did a much better job against the run than they had against the Bucs, and probably a much better job than the Jaguars expected them to against them this afternoon. But again, they lost the turnover battle for the second time. They haven't won the turnover battle in any of their games. Costly turnovers, both of them coming late in this game, and again, 3 of them in the red zone this year, where they have yet to score a single touchdown. The Texans are 0 for the season in the red zone. 3 weeks in, with a new OC, sure. It clearly is more than just the offensive coordinator. Nothing really truly impressive about what I'm seeing, so far from giving Nick Caley a pass, but it quite obviously is the group of players that Nick Caserio assembled to play in front of CJ Stroud. It's obviously impacted how much time CJ has to throw in his mind. That's why the first couple quarters of almost every single game, outside of the Buccaneers' opening drive, they all look like this. He's got happy feet. He's not throwing off of a good platform. He believes he's going to get hit. He's not going through his progressions. They have to compensate with the play calls. They have to compensate with the personnel groups. They have to compensate with max protect. And that's why he was throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage almost all afternoon until late in the game. And that's no way to succeed. You're basically admitting defeat before you've hit the field because you don't have any talent or enough talent on the offensive line. I'm actually kind of okay with having Ursery out on an island by himself as the left tackle, even though he quite clearly isn't on an island because he's constantly getting help because they recognize that. But there's too many other holes on the offensive line. We're only into week 3, and they've already gotten into a rotation at guard, where Laken Tomlinson has been the starter throughout the year. They rotated between he and Juice Scruggs all afternoon today because they don't have somebody they feel comfortable with. And the way Laken Tomlinson played in the first 2 weeks, I don't blame them. They had Blake Fisher inactive today. Kind of a shame that a second-round pick from a year ago is not among your nine best offensive linemen when you went out and didn't acquire any talented offensive linemen outside of maybe Ursery. So all these things factor into so many throws behind the line, so many pass plays going nowhere, averaging 3.5 yards a pass for a half when you throw 20 passes. That's what the Texans did in the first half of that game. So again, they're going into games with game plans that are basically, we're cooked. And they're trying to work around that, trying to hope that some short pass or some underneath throw nets them a big play. They did get a gift on the 50-yarder. I'm not sure why they fell for Nico's move. There was no pump fake from C.J. Stroud, but obviously Campbell did. He was wide open. C.J. hits him, and it turns into the only touchdown of the day for the Texans. They're just not doing enough offensively. The defense is left with people like me saying they've got to do more, they've got to do more. Well, because they're the talented group, they do have to do more. It's not that they're playing poorly, and they played almost an entire football game without Derek Stingley Jr., the abdomen injury, last week the rib injury. I do think they may be linked to one another. He missed almost every single snap today. Trevon Smith took almost every single snap today. Jalen Smith was out. You had D'Angelo Ross and Miles Bryant up for this team. They're clearly fighting against a lot of different things, and for a defense to give up less than 20 points in week 3, 20 points in week 2, 14 points in week 1, and they have nothing to show for it. Not only are they 0-3, they're down 3 games in the division. They get the other 0-3 team in the division, the AFC South, next week at NRG Stadium. It's early. There will still be 13 more weeks to go of football for this Texans team, but it's 100% a must-win from the playoff perspective. At some point, they're going to need to play good football because the must-win angle of it doesn't really mean anything. Must-win to stay in the playoff picture? Yeah, maybe that's true with 13 games to go, but they're just not a good football team. They don't have a good offense. Teams with bad offenses have to have all-worldly defenses, and the Texans do not. The Texans play good, sound defense for the most part. Still look like they need a little bit of work on their tackling. Too many guys trying to lay the big hit or just simply hitting with their shoulder rather than wrapping up. I thought the internal part of their defense, obviously the guys up front on the interior, they did a pretty good job. That's where the running game was stopped. But there's just not enough continuity in the passing game. Spurts of decent moving the football, but like we've said, it's hardly ever resulted in a trip to the end zone. Still just 3 touchdowns on the season, one of which some people don't think they earned, but rather the Bucs gave it to them. And that's what happened in the Jaguars' final touchdown. Like I mentioned earlier, they have hung together in games. They stayed in games. This one looks the worst because it seems pretty obvious. This is the worst team they've played. Jacksonville's not a good football team. They've managed to win twice, so they're absolutely in the hunt for whatever it is they want to hunt for, but that's not a good football team. The Texans just lost to them. Hadn't lost there since 2017, had not been 0-3 at all during DeMeco Ryans' tenure. They prevented that the last time they went to DeMeco Ryans, or not last time, 2 times ago, his first season, they were 0-2 when they went to Jacksonville. They put up 37 points that day. This offense has not looked good for such a long period of time, even with all the changes, O-line, OC, not enough to get it done. Yes, an absolute must-win as we continue watching this team, a team expected and predicted by yours truly and many others to win this division. Well, they are in a hole now, 0-1 in the division, 0-3 overall, and 3 games back of the 3-0 Indianapolis Colts. Disappointing Texans. You've heard that before.